So our first speaker today is going to be Steve McGuinness. Do you enjoy the outdoors, fresh air, and clean water? Do you want to enjoy a hobby that is good for both your mind and your body? Do you want to travel to places you can't get to by car, boat, or plane? If you answered yes to any of the above, you are definitely going to want to listen to what Steve has to say in his speech, why you should take up backpacking as a hobby. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. For those of you that have seen my speeches last year, you'll know that already that I'm an avid backpacker. I've backpacked half the Appalachian Trail, and if I add up all the weeks I've spent over the last 5 years backpacking, it comes out to about 3 months worth of backpacking. So I have a lot of experience, and so much that it was hard to actually find a tangent starting point for this speech. But I'm just going to be very general, and in other speeches I can go deeper. Why should anyone leave the comforts of their house to go outside in the wet rain, heat, snow, wind, whatever, to do a hobby? Well, let me give you a couple of reasons. First and foremost, for me, is the exercise. It's great exercise to be on your feet all day walking, carrying a pack that weighs anywhere between 20 to 40 pounds. With trekking poles, you get a whole body workout, and you can hike with a backpack anywhere from 2 to 12 hours a day, depending upon the weather conditions and your fitness, your level of fitness. Next thing is a mental break. Just like any vacation, it's great to get away for at least an overnighter. You could backpack. You could go 2 or 3 days. You can go a week. You can go several weeks if you have stopping points in between. So it's a great mental break. For me, one thing I love, it's a tremendous spiritual break. I don't know if you've heard of Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want. He leads me to green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Doesn't mean I never get lost. I do sometimes still get lost. It's a game we play. Am I still on the trail? It's a game you don't want to play, but we all play occasionally. Another reason is a sense of accomplishment. To carry all of life's necessities with you on your back, and you're not dependent upon anyone else for anything, is a huge feeling of accomplishment, at least for me. Access to remote places, like Stephanie mentioned in my introduction. Access to fresh air, unless you're hiking out west. We've had a bunch of forest fires out there in the last few years, so depending upon the time of year, you might not get that fresh air out there, but usually on the East Coast you do. And clean water. Just about every place I've hiked on the East Coast, the water's been very clean. I still filter it anyway, just to eliminate bacteria and whatever. So those are some of the main reasons why I like to backpack, and I got started in it 5 years ago. For me, it was very easy to get started. I was into scouts in my youth. I love the woods. The woods is my home away from home. I'm actually more comfortable most of the time outdoors than I am indoors. I like doing things solo or a small group, not large groups. Call me an introvert. That's all right. I don't care. So it's very easy for me, but for a lot of people, it can be extremely difficult. And some of you, I don't blame you if you just walk away from this saying, there's no way in hell I'm going to backpack, Steve. Thanks for the suggestions, but I'm going to try something else. That's fine with me. Let's talk about age. I've seen backpackers as young as 3, 4, 5 years old, all the way up to 80 years old. Last year, an 83-year-old man hiked the whole Appalachian Trail in 1 year, which is phenomenal. But like any other hobby or form of exercise, I recommend that if you have questionable health at all, you consult with your doctor or a physician to make sure that you are in healthy enough shape to walk for several hours with or without a large pack on your back. I have osteopenia, which is a precursor to osteoporosis. So I have to make sure that I don't carry too much weight on my spine. I don't lift with my back. I lift with my legs, and I don't do any unusual movements with my neck or spine. Then I'm fine. So even if you have health ailments, you can still backpack. Exercise. If I like to hike, backpack a week, anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks at a time. So what I typically do for exercise is I start about 2 months ahead of time. I exercise almost every day. I usually do a couple of days of walking / hiking for an hour or two. A couple of days I do strength training with my legs, lower back, abs, and a couple of days I do cardio, either on a treadmill or just jogging. Cardio machine at an incline is perfect. You don't want to do Stairmaster. That's the worst thing for most people's needs. And no trail. Very rarely am I on a trail that's 45 degrees. If I am, it's only for like 100 yards. Usually it's flat or within 10, 15 degrees. Equipment. If we have time, I'm going to show you some of the equipment I've got out back, but I tend to talk a lot and I don't want to go over too far. Location. Here in Connecticut, we're lucky. There are literally dozens, if not hundreds, of campsites, and almost all of them have trails that connect to them. So you could just Google campsites in Connecticut or trails near me, and you can start at one end and go to the other if you have 2 people, or you could just start at one end, go to a campsite, camp overnight, and hike a few miles back to your car. Lots of places. The further you go out of state, the more scenic the places are and diverse they are. Let's talk about duration. If you're just starting off, I recommend that you just go on an overnighter. You don't hike too far. You only hike maybe 2-3 miles at most. You set up camp and you test out your equipment and then cook your meals. And in the morning, you pack it up and you hike back to your car. The more experience and comfort you get with this, you can extend it to 2 days, 3 days, week long, and like I have, 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Season. I love hiking up here in the late spring and early fall. It's usually dry. There's usually no crowds. And usually it's just a great time for me to get away and reflect. But you could backpack here any season of the year, even in the middle of the winter, if you have a warm enough sleeping bag and a good 3-season tent. You don't really need a 4-season tent in Connecticut. Food. You could pretty much bring any kind of food you want on an overnighter, but if you're going for 2 or 3 or 4 more days, you want to carry lightweight food that you just add water to, like granola, soup mix. You can even buy tons of pre-made packages at the outfitters or even Walmart that you just add boiling water to. You wait 10 minutes and they're instant meals. And some of them are not too good. Some of them are pretty darn good. Last thing I want to touch on is, should I go alone or with the group? Because of my experience in the outdoors, I prefer to go solo. It's really hard to find other people to backpack with that are at your experience level, that like to hike at your pace, and that have the same time off as you do. So therefore, most backpackers that I know go solo. Very rarely do we actually go anywhere in a group, just because it's really hard to coordinate all that. So I see my time's up. So perhaps in my next speech, I will show you some of the equipment that I've got. You don't have to spend a lot on equipment to get started, maybe just a few $100s. And if you really find out you like the sport, you can just start upgrading as you go. Thank you for listening. I hope you try out backpacking as a hobby. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our Madam Toastmaster, Stephanie.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Steve. Definitely got me thinking about it a little bit, at least maybe hiking more this summer.